Before we get into today's Titans injury news, who is your favorite Titans player ever? Maybe it's Aaron McNair, but Eddie George. Plenty of great names available of yesteryear, or of course, recent memory as well. But I want to see who has the most votes. So drop your favorite Titans player ever for me in the comments section of today's show. We begin the injury news with Treylon Burks, which we've said that exact line before, which isn't exactly a fun thing. The update coming out of the very end of today's practice from Turron Davenport. Burks went down after a back shoulder throw from Will Levis. Landed with Tre Avery, stayed down for a bit. Head trailer Todd T talked to him, went off the field. Burks tried to walk it off, went into the building, holding his back hip. Sounds, with that report and other reports out there, landed pretty hard on it. So, I don't know, bruised that hip backside area, whatever. I would be very surprised if this was anything major. And, like, in a game, you probably even just play through it, and it's not that big of a deal. So my concern level quite low on that, but I did at least want to make note of it at the top of today's show. As of filming, haven't seen any of the further details come out. We will stick in the wide receiver room for a lot, actually, of today's show, strangely enough. Tyler Boyd back at Titans practices. He had been dealing with a bruised foot earlier. Practice today was at the walkthrough on Tuesday for Tennessee, which is a big deal because Boyd knows the Brian Callahan offense. He's going to be this team's slot receiver. His production has dead dipped the last 4 years of his career in Cincinnati, but he's reliable most times. There were some drop issues last year that, you know, a couple different players had drop issues in Cincinnati. Might have been a quarterback thing, given that they haven't always had those drop issues with Joe Burrow. But Boyd's steady, safe. He's a reliable third option at wide receiver behind, obviously, Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins. The latest report out of Tennessee is that they think, hope, expects, but we'll see, was the line from Brian Callahan, that Hopkins will be able to play in Week 1 against the Chicago Bears. And that would be a significant deal for Tennessee. Hopkins last year wasn't peak prime DeAndre Hopkins, although, again, quarterback play might get some of the blame on that one there. But he was impactful. He was steady. He was a big play guy. He can still move around the formation a little bit. If he is good to go in Week 1, there's always chances he's on a pitch count. Maybe he's only out there in like 3 receiver sets or something, but that also complicates things since Boyd's a slot receiver. But I think Hopkins being healthy is a big deal for Tennessee. And this team, I mentioned before, I'll be happy to mention it again. They overhauled the wide receiver room in the offseason, adding Boyd, adding Ridley, now just not relying on DeAndre Hopkins, Treylon Burks, etc., etc. So I would not put it in the guarantee bucket that Hopkins plays in Week 1. There's still some time. He's still got to get healthier, but trending towards that way is maybe the proper terminology. What do you think is the percent chance that DeAndre Hopkins plays Week 1? Sound off for me in the pinned comments of today's show, especially that ad comes here on YouTube. Other injury notes, the statuses relative to today's practice, by the way. Kyle Phillips still battling a hamstring injury. He could once again be an IR to return candidate. Maybe he gets healthy by then. He's also fighting for a roster spot, was playing well. There's a lot of things to work out at the back end of that wide receiver room. Mason Kinsey also banged up, had a broken pinky. He was limited, so he'll battle through that one. Kearis Jackson had a knee bruise in the preseason finale. He is out. I doubt he plays in last week's preseason game. Had a knee bruise in the last week and is now questionable at best for the preseason finale. Randomly went out of order with how days and weeks work there. So we'll keep an eye on that front and what the status is for Jackson, but he's kind of not in the greatest spot to make the Titans 53-man roster. We'll take a look here at that wide receiver room again, the depth chart in depth for the Titans with where they sit. I think there is a really intriguing battle going on behind the top guys, right? Ridley's on this team, Hopkins, Boyd, Burks, they're all there. I think Jaquan Jackson ends up making this team. I think Nick Westbrook-Ikina has a good shot, but that's 6. I doubt they carry 7. So injuries to guys like Phillips and Jackson and even Kinsey to an extent limit their ability to make the 53 and could impact how they approach the practice squad as well. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. Makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live easier than ever. Game Time Picks filters out through the fluff to show you only the most incredible deals on great seats. Don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. That goes for football games, both NFL and college football, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. With the Game Time Guarantee, you know you're always getting the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, ChatSports for $20 off. Another backup defensive lineman battling injury, turf toe. That's for TK McLendon, which that can linger. So that one is certainly worth monitoring as Tennessee tries to figure out the back end of that defensive line rotation. You got Sebastian Joseph Day, Devondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons. I like both Quinton Bohanna and Keandre Coburn. Those might be your five. With Marlon Davidson, of course, now also on IR, which is not a good sign for him. So not overly concerning for a bunch of those guys you just mentioned, but still worth mentioning. Also doesn't sound like there's any real concern over Chidobe Awuzie and L'Jarius Sneed and their respective injuries or bumps and bruises or load management, maybe more so for Sneed. Titans defensive coordinator Denard Wilson saying the other day, I have no doubt in my mind that they'll be ready to play in Chicago. And that's a good thing because much like the wide receiver room, Tennessee overhauled their cornerback spot with two big-time additions in Awuzie and Sneed. Sneed was the trade acquisition from Kansas City. He has missed time over the course of his NFL career, but when he has been healthy, when he has been played, or when he's played, it's been pretty good. But there have been injury histories for Sneed. Even more so for Chidobe Awuzie. I think that was kind of a culture tone setter, partial signing, given the connection to Brian Callahan. But Chido had missed a lot of time in 2020 and 2022. When he has played, teams haven't thrown at him all that much. He would probably get thrown at more opposite L'Jarius Sneed, but got to be healthy. Best ability, after all, is availability. So be honest with me here, folks. Do you worry about the health of this team's cornerback room? Y for yes, N for no in the comment section of today's show. Also back at practice finally is Caleb Farley. You talk about a guy with an injury history. This is, I think, a physically gifted corner, but it's also tough to get better if you're just not playing football. And Farley has barely played football, even dated back to his last 2 years at Virginia Tech, last 3 years at Virginia Tech. So Awuzie's still a bit nicked up. We'll keep an eye on that injury for sure. Sneed, McCreary, I think Tre Avery, Jarvis Brownlee Jr., and, well, then you get a little bit interesting because Avery consistently finds a way to make this team's roster. Farley, they're not going to carry all, and Gabe Judal's impressed too, carry all those corners. So the depth decisions to be made at the back end of the roster remain a bit of a question mark at the cornerback spot. 3 players are in concussion protocol. There's no real reason to play them in the final preseason game, I would assume, unless they get healthy really quickly. Real game, they'd be kind of more 50-50, but preseason-wise, we'll see. Josh Whyle, who is on the team anyway. Jabari Small was fighting like hell for a spot, but maybe he does try to play through it there. Otis Reese, backup linebacker option. All 3 guys in concussion protocol. So long-term for the team, fine. Short-term, question mark. Folks, we are 5 subs away from 9,500 subscribers here on Titans Today. I can personally guarantee at least 5 people watching live right now, or watching right now, I should say, we're not live, it's on demand, are not subscribed. So what are you waiting for? Hit that sub button, youtube.com/Titans Today. Before we go, one roster move made by Tennessee. Garett Wallow has been placed on IR with a pectoral injury. He'd been fighting for a roster spot. To take his spot for now on the Titans roster, it's Michael Jones, who spent time last year in the preseason with the Chargers and with the Dallas Cowboys. This is not someone who's going to steal a roster spot. This is someone who's just here to get you to that final preseason game. Because Kenneth Murray's not going to play in the preseason. Jack Gibbons is not going to play in that final preseason game. Cedric Ray is still injured, which is the shoulder injury is kind of a red flag there. Otis Reese, we mentioned, is in concussion protocol. Luke Gifford was also a bit nicked up today, but he's also a veteran. That leaves Chance Campbell, James Williams. You're kind of thin at linebacker all of a sudden. And for special teams, just to get through the dang game, That's what that move is about, not about Jones suddenly making the 53-man roster.